Hey guys, what's going on? It's Mike at Skill of Strength. So we're here today going over some basic squat progressions, and the goal of these Facebook Live sessions for us is to really, one, help educate people on how to move properly, but two, almost provide a way for younger coaches to understand the thought processes of how we do things, how coaches that have been in the trenches for a while sort of approach things. So that's what we're going to do today. We're actually going to dig a little bit deeper into the squat pattern, and we're going to show you the progressions that we use here at Skill of Strength to give you an idea of what we're thinking about and what we're trying to do with all of this stuff. Now, the progressions that we're going to show you, there's a ton of them, guys. Now, you don't need to use them all, okay? Just use the ones that work. Now, some of these maybe you've seen before, some of them maybe not, but the key here is to figure out what is going to allow you to make the biggest and quickest impact on your client. So moving forward on these sessions, I'm actually going to have one of my good friends and our head performance coach, Steve Shepard, come in and help us with everything. So Steve is he's my go-to guy. He's a very, very talented strength coach. He's in the trenches 40 plus hours a week, so he knows a ton about coaching. So from a reference standpoint, guys, I've got our whiteboard here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through each component of this, okay? The goal is, again, to understand what we're doing, but to realize what's going on from here. So we're going to start you with the most basic, most remedial type of squat, and then we're going to progress forward. Now, one of the things that you're going to notice is that a lot of these squat patterns start as a concentric start from the bottom up. And what I've found is that some people are scared to squat, but they're not scared to sit down in a chair, even if it's a low chair, right? So if we just ask people to say, hey, do me a favor, just sit down there, they're not thinking squat, right? They're just thinking, I'm just sitting down. And a lot of that time, that takes the brakes off. It doesn't scare them as much, and it creates an environment where they can learn. So oftentimes, just by starting things slightly differently, it's going to be a huge game changer. So the first thing we're going to start off with is an assisted squat, and that's going to be from a concentric start. So Steve's going to sit. Now guys, what we're trying to do here is you're going to place a block, you name it, at the proper height for the client. We like to go slightly below parallel. If for some reason that doesn't work, that's okay. Now from here, what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to find a good positioning, and this is where coaching comes into play, okay? We're going to just place the feet in an area that we think, hey, this is going to work, and then we're going to go from there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to provide them something to pull themselves up on. You can use TRX, it doesn't really make a difference, but we want to give them some training wheels, if you will. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to find the right position. Now, if you look at how Steve is sitting, this is almost like what you would see in like a Smith machine squat, where he's very, very vertical. But listen, this is not going to work in real life. This will not translate over to a functional squat. So I'm going to have Steve hinge forward so he can basically change his center of gravity. And from there, all of a sudden, he's in a little bit better position. Now from here, we just want to maintain good joint alignment. He's going to use the TRX. He's going to pull himself up, boom, and he's going to stand up. On the way down, again, we're just going to cue him to drive his knees out, control the descent, and then have a seat. Now from here, guys, listen, there's no load. I'm not really worried about endangering anybody as far as lumbar spine goes and load on the spine, but what we do want to do is maintain the integrity of the spine here. We don't want people to collapse. And that's very, very important. So when they do sit back down, you're going to notice they're going to sort of rest, but we're not losing the integrity of the spine. So from there, what we're going to do is going to weight shift forward, and he's going to stand up, boom. And then go from there, and then so on and so forth. So that's your assisted squat. Pretty simple. Make sure we've got joint alignment. We're going to use that TRX or whatever it is to allow us to get a little bit better squat. Now, from there, most people would go right to a bodyweight squat, right? And actually, over the years, I find that didn't work too well. So what we're going to do is we're going to start from a concentric position, and we're going to use a light counterbalance. So go ahead, Steve. So now what we're going to do, we've got this counterbalance. We can push this kettlebell away from us, so it'll allow us to again, use that counterbalance, get more vertical, and allow us to squat a little bit easier, okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to start from that concentric position again. Steve's going to push the kettlebell away from him. He's going to lean slightly forward, and he's going to stand up, boom, and he's going to retrace that same pattern on the way back down, and he's going to have a seat, okay? But you'll notice, see how he's leaning back? There's no way he's getting up from this position, so that slight hinge forward is vital to a good squat, okay? That's going to center your weight in the middle of your foot. So one more time, bud, and come on up, boom, and then go back down. Now, The next variation is very, very similar, but the difference is we're going to start, actually the similarity is we're going to start from a concentric position, but as we come down, we're just going to have him tap his butt right to the plate and then come back up. The cue I use is, hey, pretend that there's a tack on that bench and make sure that you're not going to hurt your butt, you're just going to tap the tack. So Steve's going to weight shift forward, he's going to use the kettlebell as counterbalance, he's going to stand up, boom, awesome. Now he's going to come back, he's going to tap his butt, he's going to utilize tension, and then he's going to come right back up. So that's a very, very simple way to go from that box squat or concentric start squat into a little bit more of a functional goblet squat where we have to own the bottom position. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to get rid of this because the rest of them that we're going to be using don't require a concentric start. When we get back into the kettlebell, double kettlebell front squat, we're going to need this. So we're just going to slide this out of the way just a little bit. Thanks, buddy. Okay, so guys, now we're getting into a goblet squat with a counterbalance, and this is a goblet squat. Okay, the goal of this counterbalance is allow us to access the squat pattern and make sure that we're a little bit more vertical. This is a biggie. So we're talking about a goblet squat with the kettlebell slightly away from us, which creates a counterbalance. So Steve's just going to do that for us. Okay? Because at this point we understand the bottom position, we know how to tap, and now we're kind of taking the training wheels off a little bit. So Steve's just going to go ahead and knees out, butt back. He's going to go slightly below parallel. He's going to brace, and he's going to stand up. Okay? And let's do that one more time. Awesome. Very, very simple. So where do we go from there? How do we progress from a goblet squat into double kettlebell front squat? One, we just change where that kettlebell goes. So what I'm going to have Steve do now is he's going to bring that kettlebell, he's going to put it basically right to his chest. He's going to drive his shoulder blades back, he's going to extend his chest out, he's going to create tension in his upper body. Okay, so you're going to notice it's going to look a little bit differently for Steve. So go ahead and push the knees out and get to the bottom position. A little bit more hingy, but still not a bad squat. But you'll notice things change. So I'm going to show you guys something really cool at the bottom. So Steve, here's what we're going to do, bud. We're going to get to the bottom position. You're going to be with the kettlebell at your chest. Now, once you get to the bottom, I want you to push the kettlebell away from you, create a counterbalance, and you're going to notice he's going to be able to get more vertical. Okay, go ahead. So bottom position. Now notice his torso angle. Now watch, he's going to counterbalance, and you notice the difference. Okay, it is very different. So most likely what's going to happen, thank you. Most likely what's going to happen is when you start bringing that load closer to your body, that's probably what a loaded squat's going to look like. You know, loaded meaning double kettlebell front squat or barbell squat. So that's how we work on the variations of the squat pattern with kettlebells, etc. So now we're going to go to my favorite, double kettlebell front squat with a concentric start. So say you've done a whole bunch of squats, right? And the limiting factor for some people with a kettlebell squat or a goblet squat is the ability to hold it. Well, if we can get 2 kettlebells in the rack position, we can keep our elbows nice and tight. It allows us to hold a little bit more weight. So we're gonna get this set up quickly. Now, guys, the way that we're running this live event today is a little bit differently. Normally, we have the camera facing us so we can interact, but we didn't do that today because I wanted you to be able to see the progression that we're talking about. So Steve's pretty good with this stuff, so we're going to dive right in. Steve, let's just get the double kettlebells in the rack position. Elbows are tight to the ribs. Do your best to keep them as tight as possible. Guys, some people will be here, some people will be here. Doesn't really make a difference. Do what is appropriate for the client. Now, elbows are tight to the ribs. You'll notice he's sitting vertical, okay? Remember, in order to stand up, we have to hinge forward slightly so we can get sort of a center of gravity where we need it to be. So he's going to tighten up, and he's going to stand up. Boom. Awesome. And on the way back down, he's going to retrace that same pattern. As he sits, we're not going to lose this positioning. We're not just going to dump out. We're still maintaining the load in our spine. It's just lower body musculature is a lot more quiet in this position. So again, he's going to lean forward, elbows tight to the ribs, and stand up. Boom. And go from there. So I'm going to leave Steve there. Poor Steve has to do all the work, and I just get to chat. So from here, guys, we get into a full double kettlebell front squat. And you'll notice it's going to look slightly different, but not too much this time. Now that's Steve's squat. You'll notice below parallel, good spine positioning, elbows are tight to the ribs, and come on up. So that's your double kettlebell front squat. The biggie here, guys, is elbows connected to the ribs. Now, from there, let's say you want to get into a barbell squat. We're going to show you quickly 2 variations of the barbell squat. And One of those variations I'm going to do, because I squat high bar, but Steve actually squats low bar. So if you give us 30 seconds, we're going to set up and we're going to go through that, okay? Just spin this around, bud. All right. All right, guys. Very good. So this looks pretty good. And then we can kind of go from there. All right, so Steve, just do me a favor, just unrack that so I can see where you're at. So guys, you can see Steve, but you can hear me. We're not going to use a load on the bar, and that's because we won't be able to see what's going on in his upper back if we put plates on there. So we're going to go really, really basic. Is that good? All right. So you want to start, and I'll walk you through it? Sure. Because you already got it. All right. So guys, we're gonna get Steve started. He's a low bar guy, and we're going to talk about the difference between a high bar and a low bar, just real quick. All right. So just quickly from a bar standpoint, when in doubt, use a bar with center knurling. Okay, that's going to allow you to kind of stick it on the back of your shirt. That's a biggie. And also, the center knurling gives you sort of an idea where the center of the bar is. The worst thing you can do is get like a really smooth bar and have like a Nike dry fit on where it's just super slick and it doesn't work so well. So Steve he's a low bar guy. So he's going to set up that bar, not on the traps, but a little bit lower, kind of almost between his rear delts. And he's going to get set up. So he's going to walk in, feet are going to be directly underneath. He's going to unrack and then go from there. So you're going to notice with Steve is he's pretty hingy on this, okay? You'll notice the load of the bar is a little bit lower than most. Now, everybody's different on this. So Steve, I'm going to have you go ahead and just do a squat for me. You'll notice Steve has a decent forward lean. We maintain a good spine position. Some people would say that this could be a little bit lower. Oftentimes with a little bit of a load, we can get that a little bit lower, but sometimes the bar sits a little bit higher when unloaded. But you'll notice, nice position. He's really hingy. He's forward, but it's a nice position, and come on and stand up. But just notice kind of the torso angle. Do one more for me, Steve. And again, he pushes really far back. Guys, that's a basic low bar squat. Everyone's going to be a little bit different, but this is basically what it's going to look like. Now I'm going to hop in, and Steve's going to walk you through a high bar back squat, which is high bar back squat. All right, buddy.
All right, guys, so the difference with the high bar placement is exactly what it sounds like. The bar's gonna be placed a little bit higher on Mike's back. Not on his spine. We want him to be kind of on the high trap to mid trap instead. So we'll have him find his comfy position. Get his feet underneath the bar. He's gonna unrack it. Take a little step out, not too many steps. Then when he comes down, you're going to see a very different hip position and a very different torso position than mine. So his torso is going to be a little bit more vertical. His hips are going to be a little bit more straight down. Okay, they're coming up. Let's see one more round. So again, guys, we're looking at the difference between the hip and the torso position at the bottom. When that bar is placed higher, his hips are going to be a little bit more straight down. Torso is going to be a little bit more vertical.
So guys, I'm going to give you a little bit of a demo right now. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing this unless you know what you're doing, but I want you to get a visual difference of the difference between a high bar and a low bar positioning. So here's my high bar. I'm going to talk to you a little bit. I'm not going to use a lot of tension, but I'm just going to hopefully give you an idea of what the difference looks like. So look, high bar. We're down in the bottom position. Everything looks pretty good. Steve, that look all right? Yep. Now guys, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go a smidge wider for this drill. I'm going to roll it backwards on my mid-back. Now when I do that, if I want to maintain the positioning, my center of gravity, I have to shoot my hips back to do that. Okay, so look, high bar, a little bit more vertical, low bar, I have to shoot my hips back. Now, I think the big difference here, guys, is preference. Obviously, you know, tibia length, femur length, torso length, mobility, all of those things play a role, but that's really the main difference. And listen, once it gets heavy, things change. We're not power lifters here. We don't train any power lifters, so I'm sure power lifters can give you a ton more information, and powerlifting coaches can give you a ton more information of the specifics. You could spend hours on this stuff. So we're going to spin back around. We're going to give you guys sort of that flow chart on our whiteboard, and then we'll finish up. All right. So we're just finishing up, guys. So Steve, can you do me a favor? Can you bring that a little bit closer?
Mm-hmm.
So that way people can see what's going on, and I'll just walk through it. Even closer, bud. Like, keep coming. Okay. All right, cool. That's pretty good. So guys, I'm gonna walk you through this, and Steve, if you wanna jump in at any point, just interrupt me, because I can ramble all day. So, here are our basic progressions on the squat. You may use all of these steps, you may not, and that's okay. But the key here, guys, is to understand that there is a progression. If you go from here to here, it's not gonna work, okay? If you go from here to here, it's not gonna work. Listen, in some cases it might, okay? But in general, when you're taking someone that's never squatted, someone that's healthy, and someone that's invested in this stuff, this is a pretty good progression to use. So just quickly, we'll run through it. You've got your assisted squat, which is basically you're using some sort of apparatus to help you out. We always start from the bottom, okay? Because people may be scared of squatting, but in general, they're not scared of sitting. Then we use that concentric start with the counterbalance, a light kettlebell to just allow them to weight shift, allow them to get a little bit more vertical, and then boom, they stand up. From there, we're gonna do basically that same squat, but as they come down, they're not gonna unload. They're gonna tap and then come on up. Think of that tack. Then from there, we're gonna do a full goblet squat, which is we're gonna do a goblet squat. We're gonna use that kettlebell as a counterbalance, and then move on. From there, kettlebell on the chest, okay, a little bit tighter so you no longer have to counterbalance. Double kettlebell front squats from a concentric start. Again, it's that box squat variation. And then we're gonna do a full double kettlebell front squat. And then lastly, we're gonna figure out if they wanna go a high bar or a low bar. Now, you could go a Zercher, you could do a front squat. It's really up to the coach at this point, but that's a basic progression to consider. Steve, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think for me, if I had to pick the two spots in this progression that I think have had the most positive influence on our groups that we coach.
Come on over here so I can
It
see
would
it.
be-
You're out.
Sorry guys.
No, you're
It would
good.
be having a concentric start, because with my middle school kids, if I set up 9 little rogue balls on the ground and I say, okay guys, take a seat. All of a sudden that becomes extremely organized, and I can start to coach them from that seating concentric start, instead of them kind of all being discombobulated on the floor. If I set up 9 balls and I can just have them sitting, it all of a sudden is very organized, and it's much easier for me to coach. And then when I think maybe a year and a half ago or so, we started to add in the goblet squat on the chest before we got into our double kettlebell work, because we were finding that it was hard to get people with a goblet squat, which is a little bit of a counterbalance, to get them into double kettlebell or barbell work. Once we started to bring that kettlebell closer, I think that was a game changer for us, and that made a huge difference.
Yeah, and I would say, you know, a big thing that we've noticed with the younger kids is when we put them on that ball, we find a good positioning for them, and we just say stand up. We don't have to overcoach, and they kind of figure it out, right?
Yep.
They know how to stand up from a fixed position. So what we found is with younger kids, we help them with their foot placement, right? And they just stand up, and a lot of the times we're not sitting there going knees out, chest up, or we're not over cueing the hell out of it. We're putting them in an environment where they have to learn, and I think that's a biggie.
Exactly. The way up, the only coaching that we really do is say, put your feet somewhere that's comfortable, drive your knees out and stand. And then on the way down, all we have to say is go down slow, count to 3, and they've got to figure out their hip and their torso position so they don't fall over in those 3 seconds. It works out really well.
Very cool. So, guys, we appreciate you guys always watching and helping us out. Hey, guys, if this video is beneficial to you whatsoever, just do us a favor and just share it. Even if there's some things you didn't agree with, that's okay. Share it anyways. No, but honestly, just take a look at it and go from there. And honestly, if there's anything else that you guys would like to see, these basic progressions, let us know, because we're more than willing to put some videos out there to help you all out. So we appreciate it, guys. You're going to be seeing a lot more Coach Steve Shepherd here.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.